Dear student, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Dear student, I am Muhammad Shahjahan, Assistant Professor, Department of Accounting, Milestone College, Uttara, Dhaka. Dear student, today we will discuss chapter 9 and you know that today it is our fourth lecture on trial balance. Dear student, after this lecture, you will be able to find those items which will not be included trial balance. That means you can find out the item which will not be recorded in trial balance and you can prepare a trial balance. You can find the amount of capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. Dear student, let's come to our class. Dear student, this is a question. This is from your main books. This is CQ2 from your books. So today we will show how we will solve this problem. Dear student, let's come to our class. Our first requirement in the trial balance of Jubilee Enterprise, which balances are not recorded and what amount of that. That means we have to find the amount which item will not be recorded in trial balance. Dear student, if you can remember last class, previous class and first class, every class we have discussed, there are some items which will not be recorded in trial balance. Number one example is opening balance of any asset. Opening balance of any asset. Let's find in the math if there is any opening balance. Look at cash in hand 6,000. This is 1117. Our math is for 31st December. So this is opening balance. This is opening balance. So this will not be recorded. We have already one. Then this is stock. This is not asset. Then yes, no other opening balance of asset. This is the balance, closing balance. Then next item is closing stock. Yes, look at this is stocks and this is closing. Closing means which day we have prepared trial balance. This is the closing date. So this is the closing stock. So you know that, dear student, closing stock also will be recorded in trial balance if there is adjusted purchase in the math. But look at in the math there is no adjusted purchase. So closing stock will not be recorded here. So dear student, we have two items will not be recorded in trial balance. Number one, it is cash in hand, and number two, stocks. Let's see the solution. This is the format. This way we will do cash in hand 6,000, closing stock 35,000, total 41,000. I hope you understand. Dear student, you should keep in your mind this is not a permanent format. This is not prescribed format in accounting, but if you do this way, it will look better. You will get full marks. So I hope you understand. You will show in your copies in a better presentation. Dear student, now next requirement, capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. That means we have to find the amount of capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. Before solving the math, at first you have to understand what is capital expenditure. Dear student, if you can remember, in chapter 4 we have discussed in details capital expenditure. Capital expenditure means the expenditure which will give us benefit for long time. That means with this expenditure we will get benefit more than one accounting year. The expenditure, again I am telling dear student, keep it in your mind, this is the formula. Capital expenditure is that expenditure which will give us service more than a year. That means by this expenditure we will get benefit more than a year. And this revenue expenditure is that expenditure which give you service less than a year. Same, but for both expenditure, you have to pay the money to other parties. But by capital expenditure, you will receive benefit long time, and revenue expenditure, you will receive benefit short time. That means this is capital expenditure which give you long term benefit, and revenue expenditure which will give you short term benefit. Dear student, let's see the question. Capital, this is not expenditure. Dear student, you know that for expenditure you need to pay money. Dear student, furniture and equipment. Yes, at the time of buying furniture, you have to pay the money, and from the furniture, you will receive benefit for long time. So easily we understand this is capital expenditure. So this is the number one capital expenditure: furniture and equipment. Then bill receivable, payable, this general reserve, cash in hand, stocks. Dear student, stocks it will included in revenue expenditure because for for purchasing stock, you need to pay money and you will sell it as soon as possible. So this item will included in revenue expenditure. Bad debt, this is also short term expenditure. Loss provision for bad debt, this will reduce the expenditure, so this also will be revenue expenditure. Building, yes dear student, building, for buying building you need more money and it will give service for long time, so this is capital expenditure. We have only two capital expenditure, furniture and building. Then debtor creditor, no. Salaries, yes, salaries, if you give salary for 1 month, your worker will work in 1 month, so this is short term expenditure. Then unearned service revenue, no. Bank overdraft liability, cash in hand, it is asset. Insurance, yes, it is an expenditure. Every month or every year in a regular interval you have to pay insurance premium, so that is also a revenue expenditure. And stocks, yes, it also will be included in revenue expenditure, it will subtracted from opening stocks. So dear student, I hope all of you understand from here which one will be revenue expenditure and which one will be capital expenditure. Let's see the presentation. Dear student, look at capital expenditure headline you will write, then particular amount. I have told you earlier, capital expenditure I have find in this math only two, furniture and equipment, then building. Furniture is 50,000 and building is 45,000. So total amount is 95,000. I hope all of you understand. Dear student, the next item, revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure, dear student, for revenue expenditure I have given you the example. I have told you the example. Number one, opening stock you have to write, and from the opening stock you have to subtract closing stock, because this is unsold goods, this is purchased goods, this is unsold goods. Rest is your expenditure, it is 5,000. Then bad debt 5,000, this is expenditure, and we have kept for bad debt earlier 3,000. So net amount of expenditure, this is opposite to expense, so net amount of expense is 2,000. Then salaries, it is an expenditure 5,000, then insurance 8,000. So total amount of expenditure it is 20,000. Dear student, I hope all of you understand. Dear student, now last requirement. That means we have to prepare trial balance. Dear student, I would like to tell it again. Last class also I have told you that for preparing trial balance, we have to make a list. We have to make a list. We have to make a list in a prescribed format. Earlier I have told that this is not prescribed format. For your betterment, you do in a you desired presentation, but this is prescribed format from the International Accounting Authority. At first you have to write serial, then name of account, then ledger folio, then debit taka, credit taka. That means there are how many columns in trial balance? There are 5 columns in trial balance. And first column you will write the serial, then second column you will write all the name of account together from the question. Look at all the ledger balances you will write together. Then some account will be debited and some account will be credited. Now question is which account will be debited, which account will be credited. Let's see, let's come to the math questions. Dear student, you know that there are 5 types of account in all over the world. This is asset, income, liability, expense and equity. And you know that asset and expense account shows debit balance. That means all asset and expense will be debited, and income, liability and equity will be in the credit side. So if you can remember chapter 3, 4, 5, easily you can. Again I am telling, capital it is equity, so it will be credit. Furniture and equipment, asset, it will be debit. Bill receivable, asset, debit. Bills payable, liability, credit. General reserve, equity, credit. This is opening balance, will not be recorded. Stock, debit. Bad debt, expense, debit. Provision for bad debt, opposite to expense, so credit. Building, asset, debit. Debtor, asset, debit. Creditor, liability, credit. Salaries, expense, debit. Unearned service revenue, it is liability, credit. Bank overdraft, liability, credit. Cash in hand, asset, debit. Insurance, debit. Stocks, debit. Now see, this is your math, this way you will do, then both the side of is not equal. Look at, if you add, there is a suspense account. That means difference of debit and credit is called suspense account. I have discussed earlier, difference of debit and credit is suspense account. I hope all of you understand. If you have any query, you can ask me later on. Dear student, this is your homework, this is CQC 4 from your books, so you will solve it inshallah. Next class we will discuss this math also. If you have any types of confusion, of course you will ask me. Dear student, look at here also, total amount not included in trial balance. Dear student, no more today. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. May Allah help all of us.